Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. This is not clickbait. Banks were just hit today, and they were hit hard with massive outages. Coincidentally, right after it was announced that the central bank has lost billions. And also soon after the Bank of England warned the banks, hedge funds, insurers, pension funds, etc. only had days left. This is exactly what I tried to warn about people yesterday. I was telling people yesterday, I was saying I've never been more serious than ever when I'm telling you right now the banks only have days left and we are in the middle or we're about to face a huge financial crisis. Now, a lot of people just thought, oh, you're just being doom and gloom. This is just clickbait, fear mongering. Nothing's going to happen. The banks are fine. There's nothing to worry about. Well, people, after the gym, I was driving home today and I got a phone call from my parents. Now, my parents don't call me every day, so I knew this was probably something important. So I picked up the phone and say, hi, mum and dad. And they say, Michael, it just happened. I said, what do you mean it just happened? They said, have you watched the news today? The Australian banks were hit with massive outages and the central bank tried to say there was a technical error. People haven't been getting paid, people getting hit with late payment fees, people haven't got access to their funds, and customers are furious. They said, we watched your video last night how the banks only have days left and now it's just happened. And even me, I was in shock. I knew it was going to come, but I didn't know it was going to happen so quickly. So I rushed home, quickly jumped on the computer right now. I've been going through the news, looking at the articles, and I'm shocked with what I found. So everyone, let's not waste any time. This is going to be a good one. Let's get straight into the news, the facts, and the data. Now, before I get into the story, I just want this to be in the back of your head why I go over what is happening. Look at this, everyone. Reserve Bank reveals 37 billion in losses, and this is the largest in its history. So why are they going to tell us in this article, don't worry, it's just a technical area, the bank's safe, everything's fine, nothing to worry about here. Just keep this in the back of your mind, and I'm going to go back to this article after I read what just happened with the banks today. Look at this, everyone. Aussies outraged after bank outage and they're asking the banks to please explain. Now, you may be thinking, well, I'm in the US, this doesn't affect me. I'm in the UK, it doesn't affect me. People, if you're not getting it now, I don't think you're ever going to get it. Are you seeing what's happening in the UK financial system where they're on the verge of a huge financial crisis? Are you starting to see how this is having ripple effects through the global economy? What's happening in the US with stocks crashing, bonds crashing, Janet Yellen saying she's worried about there's going to be a liquidity crisis in the bond market. Banks are putting aside billions and billions of dollars for losses. They're making it harder and harder to get cash out. So even though this is happening in Australia, what happens in one major economy will quickly ripple to the whole world, like how we're seeing what's happening with England is now starting to affect us here in Australia. The Osco payment service has experienced an industry-wide outage and it's left Aussies without pay and money. All the major Australian banks, including Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ and NAB, face major delays sending and receiving money through the Oxo payment system. Now people, something I've been warning about and something a lot of you are concerned about is this big, huge push to a central bank digital currency or a cashless society. We know the banks are trying to push this cashless society because if everything goes cashless, guess what? People have no choice whatsoever. They have no agency. They'll have no choice but to put their money in the banking system, whether they like it or not. But what we're starting to see become more and more common is we're starting to see outage after outage with these new bank payment systems. And this Osco new payment system, which is meant to be instantaneous, they've been praising on saying how good it is and we all need to go cashless and use this instant payment system. Well, this payment system just went down today. And it wasn't just this payment system. They're trying to use this as an excuse to why there was an outage. But customers, which I'll get into in a moment, are saying, look, I don't use this payment system and even I haven't got paid yet. And again, this is shortly after the Reserve Bank of Australia has lost a record amount, $37 billion. The Reserve Bank of Australia is underwater. If this was a normal business, they would be bust and they would be insolvent. Now, also this has happened after we've just experienced crazy cyber attacks here in Australia, and this is happening more and more common around the world. Look at a couple of companies that have just been hit in the past couple of weeks. Look at this, everyone. Australia's Medibank reports cyber incident and shares have been halted. But not just this, Optus, which is one of the huge telcos in Australia, had their customers' data posted on the dark web and hackers demanding $1 million. Again, this is why we can't go cashless and have everything digital like they're pushing with these digital IDs, with these social credit scores, with these central bank digital currencies. They tell you, look, don't worry. If you just do what you're told, you have nothing to fear. What happens if your information gets taken by someone that does have something bad to do, or does have bad intentions, or does have something to hide, and your information is sold on the dark web like what is happening right now? And the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell's come out and admitted that the biggest risk to the financial system is some kind of cyber attack. And with things escalating around the world right now, with Russia, with North Korea, etc., I would not be surprised if there is some kind of cyber attack on the financial system. The Reserve Bank of Australia has admitted fault for the outage. The Reserve Bank experienced an internal system engineering issue yesterday evening, the bank tweeted. So again, they're trying to tell people not to panic, don't worry, everything's fine, because this banking system relies on one thing, and that is confidence. The banks don't even have 5% of cash set aside if people went to withdraw their cash right now. If 10% of people went to the banks right now and demanded their cash, we'd see the banking system collapse overnight. Australia Bank ANZ said, "Hi everyone, we're currently experiencing an industry-wide outage to new payment platform, NPP, new payment platform, OzCo payments made via the internet banking ANZ app and ANZ Plus. The processing of some payments may be delayed and some payments may fail." Now, why this can turn into such a big issue is because people blasted the banks on Twitter. They've been saying, hey, I haven't got paid. I need to put fuel in the car. I need to put petrol in the car. Imagine you're finishing work and, they say a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people live day to day. So they have no money in their bank account right up until the day they get paid. They're expecting that money. They've finished work. They're tired. They want to go home. They go to the gas station, petrol station, whatever you call it. They go to put money in their gas tank and they see they haven't been paid and they can't get home, or they have to find someone else to get them home. Other examples, people going to the grocery store at their checkout, their credit cards are failing, their debit cards are failing because they haven't been paid. Look at this person tweeted, "Yeah, thanks, my entire pay has disappeared." Now again, I want to show you, then I'll come back to this, as this is not just an Australian issue. Look at this, everyone. Britain's shadow banking system is raising serious concerns after bond market storm. While the central bank's intervention offered some fragile stability to the British pound and bond markets, analysts have flagged lingering stability risk in the country's shadow banking sector, financial institutions acting as lenders or intermediaries outside the traditional banking sector. So there's a whole nother industry, the shadow banks, that people don't know how leveraged they are. They don't know how much liabilities they have because a lot of this is unregulated, this shadow banking industry. So we don't know what kind of shadow banks are going to go down and cause something in the financial system to blow up. Kind of like the Archegos hedge fund that went bust and caused huge losses for banks like Credit Suisse. The greater the debt held by the non-banking institutions such as hedge funds, insurers, and pension funds, the higher the risk of a ripple effect through the financial system. The capital requirements of shadow banks is often set by counterparties they deal with rather than regulators, as is the case with traditional banks. This means that when rates are low and there is an abundance of liquidity in the system, these collateral requirements are often set quite low, meaning non-banks need to post substantial collateral very suddenly when markets head south. And heading south they are. Now again, back to this banking story in Australia. Customers are saying, are you going to reverse and pay any fees I'm charged as a result of OzCo outage and my direct debit failing and being charged fees by them, one person tweeted. That's another big issue. These people that aren't getting paid, well, now they're going to get charged late payment fees for the direct debits, their rent coming out, their mortgages coming out, credit card bills coming out. And so are the banks going to refund them? They've been quite silent on this issue. But again, the central banks are trying to say it's just this OzCo issue and it's just because of them the reason why these payments haven't gone through. Well, there's been people come out and say they're not using OzCo payment system and they haven't been paid yet as well. This person said, my salary is not paid into my account and that has nothing to do with OzCo or PayID. Please explain, one user tweeted. And NAB told one customer it had no ETA whatsoever when payments will be processed. So the banks are trying to tell us this is just a technical issue. They're trying to put the blame on this new payment system to say why these payments failed. But again, there are people not using this system which aren't getting paid. And this is right conveniently at a time when the Reserve Bank of Australia has lost billions and we're in a global liquidity crisis with the banking sector. Because again, back to this story, The federal government is unlikely to get any assistance from the Reserve Bank to repair the budget bottom line for years after the institution revealed the largest loss in Australia's financial history at 37 billion. Now, what a lot of people don't know is these central banks are not as independent as they make out to be. Did you know these central banks, after they pay all their expenses, any profits they make, they send back to the Treasury? This happens in the US as well. The Federal Reserve pays the government a dividend. And normally they get billions and billions of dollars for this, but because the Reserve Bank of Australia has bought these bonds at record prices, and now bond prices in Australia, the US, around the world have collapsed, they're sitting on record losses and are telling the government, we are not going to be able to pay you any dividends, or we're not going to be able to give you any of our profits for years. Bullock, in an address in Sydney, said while the bank had made $8.2 billion in underlying earnings through 2021 to 2022 financial year, it had suffered a record $44.9 billion valuation loss. And funds it has to offset some of these valuation losses have been completely exhausted, leaving the bank with a $21 billion shortfall and in negative equity. If any commercial entity had negative equity, assets would be insufficient to meet liabilities, and therefore the company would not be a going concern, she said. So I know what you're thinking, okay, what does all this banking jargon, economic jargon mean for you in simple terms? What this means is, everyone, the banking system is getting more and more fragile by the week. And if you don't want to take all your money out, I completely understand, but you want to diversify your bank accounts, and you definitely want to have some cash on hand. Literally, as I was recording this, the power just went out. We're having severe weather here in regional Victoria, or at least relatively for Victoria. The power went out. Imagine if you went to the store and the power went out, or whatever happened with the payment systems and you couldn't transact. It's better be prepared than be sorry. So everyone, what do you think about this? Let me know down below. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.